Hello, Arkansas. I have to say this. Governor, members of Congress from Arkansas, I want to thank you personally. Thank you, thank you, thank you for Barry Switzer. I have to tell you, something funny happened a number of years ago in Tulsa. Coach Switzer and Tom Osborne at the University of Nebraska were being honored. And in Indian country, in Oklahoma, Barry Switzer is the king. He's well respected in our Indian communities in Oklahoma. So during this ceremony, we thought it would be nice to recognize him from our Indian communities. And so we were placed on the agenda, and I was Speaker of our House at that time, and I said, Coach, we want to make a special presentation to you. And in honor of what you do for our Indian communities by coming to our communities to help us with certain programs, and we wanted to give you this beautiful blanket in behalf of all the Indian tribes and Indian communities throughout Oklahoma. So we place it on him, and he's standing at the mic. He said, Chief, Speaker, members of the Indian community, I'm humbled and honored to receive this beautiful blanket. He said, but I have one question. Can I have a casino instead? That made ESPN that night. It did. I bring greetings from the great Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma. It's good to see my friend, Chief Baker, former Chief Joe Bird from Cherokee Nation here with us. In addition to Assistant Chief Johnson with the great Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, Governor Bill Anatoby with the Chickasaw Nation, Chief Gary Batten with the Choctaw Nation. Collectively, we have probably the highest population of natives, American Indians, and we just happen to be across the river. One of the things that I think is so important today is that it is significant that we're having this alongside the banks of the Arkansas River. We hear about Americana. There's a Native Americana as well. There's a strong history with our tribes with Fort Smith. Many of our forefathers and foremothers were moved on a Trail of Tears, were moved by boats alongside the Arkansas River. Having said that, we're here today to honor and acknowledge and look toward the future in terms of having a building that certainly honors the U.S. Marshals. But as Indian tribes, we have history with you as well. For many years, the federal government failed to provide protection from outlaws who came into Indian territory and committed crimes against the native peoples within the Five Tribes area. It wasn't until 1875 when Judge Isaac Park arrived in Fort Smith to become the federal judge with jurisdiction of the Indian Territory did the federal government begin to bring law and order to the territory. Each of the five tribes had its own court and tribal enforcement. Tribal law enforcement officers were often cross-deputized, as we have today as well, as deputy marshals to assist in bringing a measure of law and order to the Indian Territory. A number of tribal police were killed in line of duty as deputy U.S. Marshals and will be memorized in the Hall of Honor of the U.S. Marshals. I'd like to ask that we give those that were native law enforcement officers with the respective tribes, that we honor them this morning with a nice round of applause. Tribal policemen remain a vital force in the enforcement of tribal law today. Chief Baker has a marshal service. We have the other 4 tribes that have light horsemen. And it's my honor and pleasure to introduce 2 of our officers with the Muskogee Creek Nation Light Horsemen. Gentlemen. As president of the Intertribal Council of the 5 Civilized Tribes of Oklahoma, we are immensely proud of the role played by tribal law enforcement, both in assisting the U.S. Marshal for the Western District of Arkansas in the second half of the 19th century, but in the role they play in providing modern professional law enforcement today. On behalf of the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Muskogee Creek, and Seminole Nations, I am pleased that we have been invited and have accepted the opportunity to erect a monument on the museum's campus honoring the heritage of law enforcement in the 5 civilized tribes of Oklahoma. We are also pleased that the U.S. Marshal Service and U.S. Marshals Museum recognize the role that our tribal policemen played in the modern enforcement of the law. In closing, as I walked up and saw the river this morning, I thought about our forefathers and our foremothers, and I knew that they stopped here in Fort Smith before moving on to the final land that they were told that they had to be at. And I know, as it is a custom with our people, that when they stopped, they prayed. And I know that their prayer was one where we could be as one, regardless of what race of people we may be. Law enforcement is law enforcement. But it is always the belief of our people that a higher law is something that we should also respect. And I know, as I stand before you as a humbled and honored leader of one of the 5 tribes, that as we look to the future, that their prayer was one, that we can honor each other. And I believe this morning I see that. May God bless you. Thank you very much.